This episode of Fantastic People is sponsored by Kinetic Realty Services, LLC. Kinetic Realty Services exists to help you find home. Their agents understand home is more than an address. Home is where life happens. It's a place where we experience joy and pain. It's a place where we make memories and build community. Their agents see more than a transaction or a file number. They see the person or family that home represents. Kinetic Realty Services executive sales agents manage the home buying or selling process with care. Kinetic Realty Services strives to provide timely communication, technical excellence, and tailored information for each customer and each home, making sure that from search to close, your home transaction is joyful and professional. Start your home buying or selling process today at kineticrs.com/info. Again, that's kineticrs.com/info. Kinetic Realty Services, helping real estate investors find success and helping individuals and families find home.
Welcome back to Fantastic People. I'm your host, Christian.
And I'm Reagan. And here with us today is a very, very special guest, currently all the way up in New York City, host of the VH1 show Jarvis in the Elevator that ran for 3 years, creator and writer, if she has had it. It's a blog, Instagram, Twitter, also doing various writing and content creation in New York City, hosting other shows as well. Here with us today is Jarvis Darrell. Jarvis, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Glad to hear your voice, to finally talk with you in a while. I know it's been a while for us.
Sure have.
Christian, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty swell. I cannot complain.
Yeah, that's good. Well, hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Everybody out there. Happy New Year, Jarvis. And to our 5 or 6 listeners, if we still have you at this point, it's a new year, new us. You know, it's going to be a great year for Fantastic People and a great year for you as well.
Hopefully, a great year for the world because it can't get much worse.
No, you're right. It is a new year,
Yeah.
so let's celebrate that. So yeah, Jarvis, you know, I know you did the VH1 show and you're currently writing, tell me, how long have you been in New York City? I know it's been a while.
It's been 11 years. This year will be 12.
Wow.
I cannot believe it's been that long. Honestly,
I know.
I might have missed a few years where I didn't even realize you were there.
Same.
Yeah, but you know, growing up in the Pensacola area, going to high school, Woodham High School, first of all, what was that like? High school, Woodham High School. I think didn't I might be totally messing this up and replacing it with a different school, but didn't they close Woodham and it turned into a different school?
Closed now. It's a middle school now.
Yeah.
And I think I was like the second to last class to graduate from it, but I had a legacy there. Like my grandparents went there, my mom went there. And so it was kind of sad when it closed down, but you know, new eras. But I mean, growing up there and going there was an actual wonderful experience. I mean, like I did like chorus there, I did drama, had a great program. I don't know, and I've stayed in touch with everyone. Like I was home for my 10-year high school reunion a few years ago. That was just, I mean, I don't know, the bonds I made there really have just stuck with me all of this time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I don't want to hark on Woodham High School too much, but I used to teach at Pine Forest High School, and I taught the year at Pine Forest the year that Woodham closed.
Yep.
And so Pine Forest got half of Woodham students. All of my best students were Woodham kids.
Yeah.
Of course.
They were.
Titans.
I mean, I love my time at Pine Forest. If any of my Pine Forest kids are listening, I love y'all. But my Woodham kids, it was such a noticeable difference. And I was good friends with several of the teachers there. And now it's West Florida High School, which I also taught.
I know, which is crazy.
It is wild. And, you know, I was, I think it was which was horrible. My senior year in high school at Tate was the first year that it was closed. And I felt so bad. Yeah. For those students that, their senior years at a new school, but they had so much school pride, and they worked themselves in pretty well into the, at least in the music department and the drama.
Yeah.
They,
So sad.
yeah. Well, not to go down that sad path, but
Right, I'm getting emotional.
but yeah. So what is that like though, coming from Pensacola, Woodham High School, all the way to New York? First of all, how did that? If you could tell us, how did that happen? How did that start? What motivated you to make that jump? And
like growing up in Pensacola artistically, which I think Pensacola is a great place to grow up in the arts. Though things have changed now. Back in the day when I moved to New York, it was very kind of hard to thrive artistically. Like you can get a degree in musical theater, but there's not much you can do unless you want to be a teacher, which there's nothing wrong with, but you can't necessarily be a professional and be paid for your art.
Right.
So like I went to school, like I went to PJC, then I got my BA, my AA there. Then I did my last 2 years at Florida State, got my degree, and then I was back in Pensacola. Like, okay, now what? What do you do? And it just kind of happened like a fluke incident of someone's like roommate moving out, and they needed a quick replacement, and so I basically dropped everything on a whim and moved to New York. No money, I knew no one. And it's been a crazy and wild ride. But coming from Pensacola, like it was just like a crazy, it's definitely a different way of life. It's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of hustling. But I appreciate it. I love it. I mean, I love Florida roots. I think it made me the New York man that I am. So it was great.
Yeah, I've only been to New York City once. Loved it.
It's amazing. It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I'm from Atlanta, and
okay, so you're used to city life.
Yeah, I'm used to city life. When I moved to Pensacola, and I don't think I've ever told this story on the podcast before, but I remember the very first news story I ever heard when I moved here. I moved here when I was 14, and there was the main report was a kid almost drowned.
That's it.
And in Atlanta, that you ain't never gonna hear about that.
It's every day.
Of course, yes, it happened.
Yeah, so
almost
drowned. So like for me being like a city kid moving here, I'm like, oh, this is the country. And so then going to New York a few years ago and being like, oh, this is like the city of cities. Like it.
Yeah.
I definitely could have seen myself if I were younger going and never leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think had I waited, if I didn't do it right then at that particular point in my life, I don't think I ever would have done it. Not that you need to be young. I think it's just like, it's like when you look back on your life, like if I knew what I knew now, I don't know if I would have done what I did then, but I'm glad I did it.
Right. Right. Well, and you to your point, you start to make roots as you get older, you start to have things that tie you down. And so then taking those big risks, just they're more scary, or there's more things that you think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was great for you to be able to take that big jump when you didn't have a lot holding you back. And it seems to have really paid off, which is amazing to watch.
It certainly has. Thank God.
Yeah.
Everybody's game here. Yeah. You never know.
I often tell, when I don't teach anymore, but I would tell my students when they were seniors, I was like, you're going to have a lot of pressure to go to college and get a degree and then get a job. But hear me, right now is the only time in your life you get to be selfish. You're an adult for the first time ever, and you don't have a spouse, you don't have children, you don't have any reason to not make decisions that are best for you. And I think more people should, on a whim, pack up their car and go somewhere new and start life over someplace else and try it out. And
why not? It's the best thing you can do.
Absolutely. Follow your dreams.
And what, I think what's also important too, and I think you haven't done, amidst all of your success, you come home and it's home, and it's like you're just anybody else. And I think, Jarvis, the few times I've hung out with you and you've come home, that to me it speaks volumes of your character and who you are, because it's, you text everybody that you remember still lives in town, and you're like, hey, I'm coming to town, and it's like, I'm going to be at this place, come hang out, and everybody shows up. And it's like you wouldn't know that you have, moved to New York and started, making success for yourself, because it's just Jarvis, when you're here.
it's changed. I feel like home are the people now. It's not necessarily a location.
Mhm.
And I've carried home with me for so
Yeah.
long. Like I'm grateful, especially in regards to my life in Pensacola, where like I really did make deep roots, but
Mhm.
it wasn't in locations. It was always with people.
Well said.
Sometimes it was people like, I met them, like we had a brief amount of time shared together and then we went off separate our separate paths, but we share that connection
Mhm.
that brings us back together. We check in on each other. Love knows no distance, space, or
Yep.
time. And so it's just like my home, I carry that with me even in New York. Like all of the success that I've achieved here, it doesn't feel, I mean, yes, I have my New York friends, but I care more about my friends at home. You know what I mean? It's just like hearing like I'm proud of you means a lot
Yeah.
more from my people than just like, friends that are just like here.
For sure. Oh, and like I said, that speaks volumes. I mean, and that's so well said because, we also know a few people that have come from Pensacola and made extremely large names for themselves, and we're super proud of them. And I'm not going to name any of those names, but to me, they don't seem to have the same mindset as you do, and representing home is where the people are. They kind of distance themselves and separate themselves from home unless you're in their tight knit family. Which when you're a massive name, I can
Absolutely.
understand that you have to protect that. But on the other hand, it's like you're still you're the same person I grew up with. Why am I being
Right. You
treated
still want to go to Whataburger at 2
different?
a.m.
Right, exactly. That's all I'm asking.
This kind of, we know what we're kind of gonna talk about topic wise, what you're a fan of, and this is really kind of brings it in for me as you as a person who has come from humble beginnings and achieved success and did it your way, and you powered through. We were going to talk about TikTok, and I think that's really a vehicle that people can also do that today.
Yep.
That they can take control, and of course viral and internet fame is like a totally crazy
Roll
thing.
the dice.
I know, it's nuts.
Something we literally did not have 20 years ago.
Nope. 10 years ago.
Hardly 10 years
Yeah.
ago.
10 years ago.
Yep. Just getting started 10 years ago.
So what's the appeal and love for TikTok for you?
I mean, where would I even begin? I mean, I feel like so old now because like I actually like went viral via Instagram. Like I started this account and I fell asleep with 300 followers, woke up the next day with like hundreds of thousands,
Wow.
and like I'm getting DMs from all of these celebrities like, who are you? And now to see that in a different medium with TikTok, which kind of was like the Vine thing when I was like in my heyday. But TikTok is, like it's 1 minute, 60 seconds of like content, in all different forms. You can do singing, you can do crafts, you can do like there are successful TikTok accounts where you wouldn't even be able to identify the actual content creator. It's just endless. Like I feel like I call it one of those like open heaven apps where absolutely anything and everything is possible. Once you learn your particular audience and how, which is like honestly like it's how to win the internet. Honest, it's so complex. There's so many twists and turns, and then there's the For You page, which they're learning you as a person. So they're literally like sending you just you content. It's not even people that you follow that they feel that will stand out to you. So it can make your world smaller, but it can also make your world a lot bigger, which I think is the original goal of the internet. But I think TikTok is doing it the absolute best right now.
Do you ever find yourself just on TikTok for like hours on end?
Oh yes.
I was about to say, yeah, I can answer that for him. Yes, because I watch. I'll pull up Facebook and I'll see that he's got an updated story on Facebook that he's just literally feeding TikTok stuff from
well, on my private Instagram. So and even me, like, so I also have made it a point not to do TikTok content. I've not put my hat in the ring just yet. I will be very soon this year.
That's exciting.
Right. I mean, but I'm doing it professionally, which is a lot different than like, an at-home person. So I want to make my content very like me.
Mhm.
So I'm working on it, but I've not participated in creating. However, I definitely participated in consuming.
Mm.
And I had to set an alarm on my phone so I can't stay on for a certain amount of I don't want to, because you can lose hours
Yeah.
on this.
I appreciate the
Hey,
self-control.
no, that's great.
You gotta have it.
I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Set boundaries.
And so, and I've like taken it even on my platform because I love TikTok so much. On my personal Instagram, I do a roundup every Tuesday. I started it, I would like mid May of 2020. I would do like Jarvis's TikTok Tuesday, and I would pick my favorite videos that I loved and that were not necessarily trending, but just like they stood out to me as ones that were great. And I would put them in like a playlist, a curated playlist. And it started off with a few, like, like normal engagement,
Mhm.
few thousand views. And now, like, it's my highest day of engagement on my personal Instagram. And it has nothing to do with me. It's just me sharing my favorite TikTok videos.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't have a TikTok, but
We don't need one.
Yeah.
Because our wives
my
just
wife,
show us stuff.
we lay in bed almost every night, and probably an hour.
Yep.
Of it just being like, oh, watch this.
Yep.
this. Oh, just go ahead. We're gonna do the next one
Yep.
too.
Right.
Yep.
Right. One more.
Yeah.
Just one more.
And then we get lost in the,
It doesn't make me mad.
No.
I enjoy
No.
it
It's
too.
fine, yeah. I don't feel like I need one because I know I'm
Yeah.
gonna get this stuff
Exactly.
anyway.
That's what people tell me the most. Like, I don't have TikTok. I don't want to go down that hole, but I thank you, Jarvis, for going down that hole
Yes.
for me. I look forward to your TikTok Tuesdays. They're always exactly what I need when I need it, and it's it, and that's okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all kind of know when TikTok exploded in 2020, but when did you first experience it?
I heard about it, as someone, I work in social media, and I'm used to a lot of, especially like, in March, I was mostly working a lot at Teen Vogue and doing a lot of like content creating there and producing there. So, we were hearing about it, like, okay, we want to do a TikTok. I'm like, wait, is it an Instagram video?
What's that? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like, no. So I downloaded the app, and that was unfortunately right before the big shutdown happened for the pandemic here in the city. And so, we all were kind of like just at home and there's nothing to do. I'm like, okay, so let me just look into this app. And 30 minutes in, I'm like, I'm obsessed. This is it. This is the future.
That's awesome.
But the thing about it, it changes so rapidly.
Mhm.
Like you go there's times when it's dances, you do like viral dances, there are like little moves that are very like, particular to TikTok. But then you get into like singing, there's sing talk, there's Christian talk, which
Mhm.
I mean,
Cool.
there's so many different parts of the algorithm that you can learn about and explore. There's the craft talk. There's so many different parts of it where you can just find yourself down a hole of just like, I want to watch another video just like it. And it's just normal people.
Yeah, the one thing, and again, not having my own and not going down the hole by myself. The one thing I think you kind of mentioned it that I don't understand about TikTok, and maybe you can enlighten me. Is the
Sure.
ones that like it. I guess it's the whole idea of everybody mimicking somebody else's thing. Like
Yeah.
I'll see one that's like really funny. It's like somebody mouthing a skit to a famous scene in a TV show and like reenacting it. And then I'm like, oh, that was funny. And then my wife's like, no, we got to find the original. And I'm like, what do you mean the original? What was wrong with that one?
Uh-huh.
I'm like, wait, why? If the first one was funny, why did
Like
200,000 people need to recreate it?
The challenge is
Yeah. I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, like that's the wonderful part about it. Like there are things. It's like I think it's very. It can unite us in that front of where it's just like, oh wow, I like what you brought. It's the same. Like you'll get a soundbite from like say like The Office, and it's like a very famous soundbite. Like, we know what's going to happen, but to see people's interpretation. And it even feels different with different people and different houses and different countries. Like, and so you're like, wow, like I've never seen Jim and Pam this way. Like, it's so
right. Which that,
you guys.
That aspect I do appreciate. It's the like, I can't even figure out how to describe it. I haven't seen it forever.
Stop being negative, Reagan.
No, I'm just saying. Whatever. All right, fine.
No, but also it's just like but those are great, but then there are ones that are original, like that
Right.
original
Yeah,
content.
Yeah, everybody's trying to mimic something that wasn't original, and I'm like, yeah, but that was so funny when
well, it's
he
like
did it.
the guy skateboarding listening to Fleetwood Mac, right? Like
Yes.
a lot of people copied that, but I think there was still a lot of heart for the original
Yes,
content.
I guess
Absolutely.
I guess there's a mix of both.
Mhm.
There are those that do a really great job, and then there's others where I'm like, yeah, I didn't need that for the 15th time.
See, that's the one
I
TikTok.
need it.
That's the one TikTok I showed my wife, and I was like, "This is great," and she's like, "I don't get it."
Yeah, well,
No, you guys have to get into baby TikTok, which makes me melt into a puddle.
I mean, it sounds like
I should put my babies on TikTok.
you should. I see,
It's
but I tried to say that about my kid, and
Internet
my
celebrities.
wife said no. So
I mean, yeah, I can definitely understand that because there's so many different parts of TikTok, but like there are, and like those are usually the ones that are private, like because like TikTok's content. Say I'm watching a video and I like it, you can save that to your phone where you can send it to the masses or reshare it in whichever way you choose. However, a lot of the baby TikToks like you can't reshare; they're very private, or like it's like you can't even screen record. Which I think is a great parameter, especially for such a new app, especially because babies, you want them to be protected. But I love them, like the cute, adorable ones. Like, oh,
You had briefly kind of mentioned this about how, and this is kind of in TikTok's nature, is that it's constantly changing and evolving and growing, and there's new things and new fads always coming up on it. One thing that I feel like Instagram kind of did when it came onto the scene is it influenced everything else. Even now, like with Twitter, and you see fleets, which are just stories. Do you think TikTok, and kind of already has with Reels, I guess, do you think it's going to continue to influence other social media programs as well?
Oh, 100%. I have looking at our past in social media, I have no reason to believe otherwise. I think they are really blazing a completely new trail that is uncharted and unnavigated in such a way. Yeah, I mean, like it's a fairly new app, though it's not necessarily new. Before it was TikTok, it was this app called Musical.ly. Which was basically like lip syncing, lip dubbing.
Right.
And then it kind of evolved into what it is now. Because like I did Musical.ly and I did these videos on Musical.ly, and then I'm like, oh, so Musical.ly is TikTok because they have the same videos that I created years back in 2014, actually.
Wow.
So it's not new, but I think they've rebranded themselves the way they have changed the way they do things, and now it's just like, wow, okay, I love it. And just what I think it's influencing other apps in regards to like the tools that it provides you in regards to creating like the better filters. You can do voice accents, you can just do so much more on the app. And now it's just only raising the bar for other social media platforms.
It definitely is a great tool to introduce people in content creation and the accessibility and variance that comes with that maybe we're getting baby steps with in Instagram and Snapchat and stuff, but TikTok definitely took a step up with that, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of how like MySpace walked so that Facebook could run.
Man, I'd go back to MySpace in a heartbeat.
Yeah, those are the days.
In MySpace, like we were learning coding without necessarily
100%. Yeah.
We're learning how to I want my page to be this color, and I want like a Blink 182 song to just like
picking the song was like the most
so tedious.
Yeah, it was that was so hard for me to do every time I changed it. And I did it often. CDsinc.com, I think, was the place you could pull the code, and it's great times.
And Photo Bucket.
Yeah, Photo Bucket. I was kind of a hipster about my MySpace that I'd always put my friends' music on there. So like, if my friends recorded music, I wanted them to hear it.
Good for you.
I was really self-righteous back in the day.
This really obscure house band.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and people are going to hear it and they're going to want to go look it up. Yeah.
Yeah. They probably never did.
No. Were they also in your top 8?
No, I didn't put those people in there. My top 8 was exclusively for people that I liked at that moment, and then for other people to know I no longer liked them.
Oh, wow.
I found him first.
Bro, I used to be on your top 8. What's up with that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
well,
The drama of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but back to TikTok, like what it's teaching, it's also teaching, like you said, like content
Mhm.
creation, when to post, how to post. That was like kind of uncharted territory back when even I was getting my start. I was just posting when She Has Had It was kind of be walking up into its success. Like I was just posting whenever I wanted to post.
Right.
I didn't really think about it. There was no rhyme or reason. And now there's a full like calculated science as
Mhm.
to when is the best opportune time to post, how to post, what you're posting, what your target audience is. Like this is stuff that people go to school
Right.
for
Mhm.
years and years. And now with an algorithm like TikTok, you're allowed to kind of learn and like work your way through on your own,
Mm.
and it's marketable.
Yeah. So, I'm assuming you probably explored and experienced a lot of that stuff with She Has Had It before TikTok, but has TikTok influenced how you put out other material as well, or just by
I
watching it?
want yes and no. Here's the thing, because I you don't want to like overlook that sweet spot of the people that aren't necessarily right now choosing to participate in TikTok.
Mhm.
I don't want to just bombard them with 'cause when like that's not necessarily I'm not an expert on TikTok.
Mhm.
I'm a connoisseur. I love it, but I can't claim to be anything in that medium. And also, it doesn't necessarily translate. There are people that have hundreds and thousands of followers on TikTok, but then you go to their actual Instagram
Mhm.
and it's like a few thousand.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's like, it's very hard to turn the content right now. It's very hard to turn that into liquidatable, like actual money.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, like I can be paid thousands of dollars for one post just to say one brand.
Mhm.
It does pay my bills, like Instagram. So I don't want to forsake it in the regards to that,
Mm.
especially with like reels, which it is kind of like they are kind of like fusing, but it's a slow progression. I think we'll
Mhm.
definitely see it this year. So no.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's all stuff that I am extremely inexperienced about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really appreciate the perspective because you're offering a lot of insight to me that makes it actually more appealing. Like,
Mhm.
again,
Mhm.
it's not that I am turned off to it, it's that I've never felt the need.
Right.
But hearing you talk about it and what it has to offer, like, it does intrigue me
Mhm.
to want to give it a shot, like, just for myself and my own
Yeah.
enjoyment. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to be posting dance
Right.
videos, but
Sure.
but
Right.
there
Well, that's
there
the
might be a
thing.
sect of TikTok that I might really enjoy
Yeah.
interacting with.
And there really is. Like, that's what I love about it. There is something for just about everyone. And the thing about the For You page is like, it kind of like, because like the first time you get on TikTok, it's going to just send you just like lots of content. And there are contents with millions of views. There are contents with like one view, like that you're seeing. You're the very first person to see.
Mm.
And it's all about how you engage. So say I watch a video, it's 60-second content. Some videos are shorter, some videos are longer, and it's on a never ending loop. So you watch one and say you like just you get like 20 seconds in, you're like, not for me, and you just swipe away. You'll never see that video again.
Mm.
However, say the next video is talking about a niche pocket of something that you really might be interested in, or maybe you identify with and you like it. You like the actual video, you replay it, you maybe swipe over and look into more content from that particular creator. That's allowing the algorithm to kind of get to know who you are, what you like, what to throw you. Know it because like my For You page feels tailor made for me.
Mhm.
However, they're always pushing the boundaries of like they're gonna show you things that maybe aren't for you that you might be interested
Okay.
in.
That's good. I was about to ask a question about whether that's good or not, but if they're pushing that, then that means that they're not allowing you to go down this very narrow hole in content. They're
Mm-hmm.
helping you still push those boundaries, and they're still learning you and trying to find out if something is or isn't for you.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, looking back on even like 2020 with the election, which is like, so tricky when you talk about politics.
Mhm.
It's just, it makes me uncomfortable. It's not necessarily, it's not, I just don't seek it out. Like, I mean, I
Mhm.
love politics, but I don't seek out to just like, this is my escape. I'm trying to escape the news.
Right, right, right.
And so like I just want to enjoy, but to be able to see really like wonderful, fueled arguments, heated
Mhm.
arguments, debates on both sides of the story,
Right.
from multiple
It's
perspectives.
very important.
From young people, which I found very encouraging. Young people that are like first time voters that are doing the work for like, people like us, like that are in our 30s, approaching the 30s. I'm like, wow, like we weren't talking like this back when it was like, like
Yeah.
we just weren't having like conversations. We weren't even educating ourselves. I don't even think we knew that we had the resources. And to see it like even on this app, like I could see ballot from both sides,
Mhm.
which really was, I found wonderful.
Mm.
It got heated. It does get heated. I mean, 2020 was a heated year, so but I mean, it's still great. Like
Yeah.
I love that. It wasn't just one sided. I wasn't just getting
That's
things that
good.
were going to pacify me.
Right. And well, speaking of, one of my favorite TikToks that we got into watching a lot was I don't even know his name because I'm not on it enough, but the guy that did the Obama and Trump as if they were
Conversations.
friends and
Oh my
hanging out.
gosh.
Yeah.
It was
Hilarious.
so good.
Yeah.
Love that guy. And his impressions are spot on.
Yeah.
Spot
Of
on.
course.
Yeah. If nothing else, anyone listening to this,
His like the pauses that he did of Obama,
Yeah.
like, oh my god, this
yeah,
is
yeah.
It was perfect.
If there's nothing else that our listeners do, go look that up on TikTok. Find videos of that guy. It's great.
Well, Jarvis, you mentioned this about young people, and again, I was an educator for a long time. One thing that has blown me away about like the generation after us, one coming up, and I know they get a lot of flack from old people on the internet and stuff like that,
Absolutely.
but they are much more socially aware and socially conscious than I certainly was when I was their age. And number two, they're a lot smarter than I was. Like they understand the access to information side of the internet, and they learn and process and they actually apply it. And I think TikTok, while maybe has a bad rap in some circles, is a great example of where you can find young people making an actual difference and expressing themselves in a way that maybe they weren't getting the opportunity to do beforehand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's so inspiring because like I think we were that smart. I just don't think we were it wasn't necessarily manifesting through us because we didn't have necessarily an outlet
Mhm.
back in the day. I mean, like you could blog about it. Remember, like Live Journal,
Yeah.
like you could write it out,
Manga.
but like
Yeah.
yeah, like everybody wasn't as studious as to read like
No.
8 paragraphs, mostly about you like teen angst lamenting about my mom. Like,
Yeah.
it was there, but I think once again it was like setting the foundation for like where we're at now, which is I find it very hopeful and very inspiring about like the future generation of like our future leaders actually and like the stars. It kind of like holds the people in power. It puts their feet to the flame in regards to just like information. And there's apps like this that where it's just like constant information. What type of information do you want? Am I looking for information that necessarily fits my small box of belief, or am I looking to like go outside of that box and explore it and like even take from it what I will, like what suits me, what doesn't, I can leave. It's so complex in the best of ways, and it's just great. It's just wonderful. How do you know you believe what you believe unless it's been tested? So like that's kind of the thing on TikTok, because people argue all the time, but like it gets heated, but in the best way.
Yep.
The Crucible is a powerful tool, and the internet certainly can be one.
Yep. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the Creator Fund. Talk about that for a second. What is that?
Well,
What does that mean to you?
now, well, I mean, we live in a capitalist society. So like, you want to make money, and like a lot of these kids, they have like millions of views and like not a cent to show for it, which was kind of like the thing back in the day when Instagram was big. Like, like when my Instagram blew up, like I had all of these like, oh my God, you're like going to lunch with Naomi Campbell. I'm like, yeah, but my card declined. Like, it did.
I've been there.
Of course she paid, but like still. You know, I was like, I was achieving this like number, which is just a number. It's like, though it's followers, it's just a number.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know, like, okay, I got it. Like, am I gonna make money from this? I didn't know like how to like make money off of it. So
Mm.
now with the creator fund on TikTok, if you I think every 1,000 views you make, you can start you once you make 100,000 views, then after that, every time you make 1,000 views, you make like a certain amount of money. I think it's particular in regards to certain people. But you can make a lot of money.
Mhm.
So if you got a viral video and it's your content, you can't really share it. It can't be like a meme. It has to be original content. And if that goes viral and if it gets a lot of views, you can make quite a bit of money.
Hmm.
But that's all through but that's anybody.
Hmm.
No one is excluded. And the way the algorithm is set up, you really have to develop a following. Like you kind of have to, or if you do something very, very funny and that blows up, then you can benefit. It's
Hmm.
complex. It's a lot. It's so hard to
Yeah,
explain, but
but it sounds like it's not as difficult in that you're not relying on your own self to have to go reach out and make um, connections or book sponsorships or
Yeah,
yeah,
advertisers
advertising.
or
Yeah.
agree to hold a can of Coca-Cola in your TikTok. Like
that's kind of like the trap I'm in on my own. Like, I mean, like I have to like, oh, like I'm having a bad day. Like, do I really need to like make this post? Yes, because they're paying your bills and they're keeping your lights on. So yes, you do have to make this post where I mean, and that definitely happens on TikTok, sneaky,
right.
because you can't. They have to do it different. They have to do it differently because of copyright and because of certain laws now.
Mhm.
So like, and that once again, they're navigating like this new uncharted territory.
Mm.
Because like people can be sponsored by a brand, say like a makeup brand,
Mhm.
and but they can't necessarily over it because like that's not going to be a popular video.
We normally wrap this up with two questions, and the first one is everything that a person is a fan of and fandom culture regard to it kind of has a negative. So, what are some
Yeah.
constructive criticisms you have for TikTok and TikTok fans?
Uh, I have plenty. I do believe cancel culture
Mm.
on this app is running rampant. I think that's kind of like an age group thing, but it's also just an internet thing where we have the access to, if I don't like what you're saying, if I don't agree with what you're saying, I can also just cancel you.
Mm.
I can mute. I don't have to hear you.
Yeah.
Or if you're no longer suiting the purpose of why I like you, I can just block you out, which can be, I think, a bit toxic. I think it's not necessarily the best tool in your arsenal. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to say this isn't for me. But I also think like every person on this app is a human being, and I think it deserves an amount of respect that you don't necessarily get all the time behind a screen. Once again, like I'm in Alaska, you're in Florida, like the chances of us meeting are very like 0 to none. But on this keyboard and through these screens, I can say some very hurtful and horrible things. And it's different. It depends on what your support system looks like, what you're going through in your own life outside of this app. So like people can be a bit more vulnerable or triggered. So it can get a little tricky navigating that. It is highly addictive as well. Addictive. You can lose hours and hours, which is why I've had to set personal parameters of like, I can't.
Mhm.
I mean, I have to, I'm a grown adult. I need to
I got to go to
do
work.
other right. I have things.
Take a
So I mean,
shower.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure, and they are kind of working on like that as well, where you can time yourself or just only give you a little bit because it's endless content that you can consume. Um, and just like certain subgroups lead to darker subgroups. So
Yeah,
like if you do
yeah.
it around a certain, it can get a bit vicious.
Mm.
So how do you like police this? I don't know. I don't, and I hope they will figure it out without encroaching on free
Mhm.
speech.
Mhm.
But it's so tricky.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and that's a good point. I mean, they will have to do it at some point. And
They're gonna have
I
to.
listened to a podcast Not going to give them credit because, we're the little guy. But I listened to a podcast where the host talked with the security officer and I think CEO of Twitter. And they really they had another guest that was like lighting them up for, censorship and
Yeah.
being one-sided in the conversation. And a couple of points that those two individuals made was that, you have to, I mean, if you have terrorists or people throwing out hate speech, like nothing but hate speech, bullying people off the internet, that's not a good thing that any company or any person wants to be a part of, right?
Yeah.
But if you just leave the gates wide open, that will happen. Like you said, going down those darker roads.
Yeah. Well, because the thing is, like, it's the same TikTok app that I'm on is the same TikTok app that people's children I have a lot of friends and their children, they love it. They love it though, because that particular For You page is kind of crafted to like, okay, kid content or like, it really does kind of suit your age group, but you don't have control over what is the next video scrolled up. And the algorithm isn't necessarily a perfect one where I can guarantee that this next video after this little baby shark video isn't going to be something that could possibly harm my child or be something that I don't necessarily want to discuss with my child right now. So like it's very tricky. Like, how do we protect? Because it's the same app that we're using. It's the absolute same app.
Yeah, and you don't want to run people off the app.
It's the same accent that my niece or my nephew would have.
Right.
Yeah, and both the censorship and I think the cancel culture are great points. I mean, but both have an importance in society. Like, I'm not super pro cancel culture, but the argument that I always believe in for it is that it's a trial of public opinion. It's not an actual trial in front of a court of law, and
exactly. But it can feel that way.
It absolutely can. And so it's just finding the right balance to these things, and it's certainly a question for a person much smarter than me. Because both. It's necessary, but probably should be curtailed. Like but it's hard. It's a hard problem to solve.
Because once again, like we're all you're on this app with millions of people, and each individual person, given day to day, no matter what you're going, looking back at like the darkest times of the pandemic, of like I'm home alone. I'm going through things. Like there are certain days where I'm more vulnerable than otherwise, and like. You can get into these heated debates. People process them very differently. And I wouldn't want it to hurt anyone or to make someone want to hurt themselves, which that's kind of like the problem. We've dealt with it on Instagram, even for the content creators in regards to like sometimes there are people that are very successful on the app. They create these videos that get millions of views, and then the next video after that only gets 500 views. But you can take it personal. I've even gone through that of like, okay, that wasn't as successful. And so you can kind of like get in your head, and that makes you kind of blocks you from creating more content. It's hard to keep it up. You can find yourself in a conundrum that's very tricky if you don't have necessarily like the tools to, it's just complicated.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Yeah. It's a hard problem.
One of the one downfalls I feel about the app. Honestly,
the final question we ask is, what is the future of TikTok? There's been some drama if it was going to be allowed to stay in the United States. I think Walmart was going to buy it at one point. Like
Microsoft, somebody.
Not just the business side, but what's the future content wise? Its growth, popularity. Where do you see TikTok in the next couple of years?
I really do see it kind of taking. I feel like Facebook is phasing out and Instagram will go where Facebook is now. We'll have like our moms and grandparents on Instagram.
Like an email address. Everybody has one.
Yeah. And then I feel like TikTok will be the new type of Instagram in a different way. I really do feel like it's got the potential to be such a great app. But it's nothing in this life is perfect. I feel like everything, it could definitely be better in certain places. But I feel like they are actively tweaking it. And I feel like it will be a great place. I think we're going to see a lot of stars just kind of emerge from this medium. I think but the thing is, like, you never know what type of stars are going to come from it. The same thing of like the people that are Instagram celebrities now, like, would be a nobody on a Facebook or a MySpace, even because like there was nothing to support it. Like, how would you know? But these kids will certainly, I mean, ugh. And it's diverse. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I don't know. It's hard to put my bet in on like what it's actually going to be, because it's still very unsure. Right now, we don't know what's going to happen with it.
Yeah. You know, I tell people a lot, Twitter is my favorite app. I am
it's the best.
Addicted to Twitter. I have been since 2009.
Yep.
I have always had a Twitter
live tweet during an award show. I've made some of my best friends live tweeting live events.
Oh, I live tweet the Oscars every year.
It's the best. It's the best.
But the reason why is because one, it's instant access to information. Like,
absolutely.
I also appreciate, you know, maybe I'm guilty of just reading a headline. Twitter is nothing but headlines. I like that I don't have to read, you know, you said 8 paragraphs earlier. Yeah, like we're talking about LiveJournal. You have 240 characters. You tell me what you need to tell me.
Except sometimes people try to pull that.
Sure. I'm not reading your 31 tweet thread. But the other thing is it gives a voice to the voiceless. So, like, I have also worked in the government intel space, and when the civil war first kicked off in Syria, a lot of the information we were getting was from the ground, from people who were there on Twitter. And what an incredibly powerful tool that is to a person who feels like, hey, I have no other way to tell the world what I'm thinking.
Absolutely. But the power of a soundbite is just spectacular.
And so I believe that is what TikTok can be. I believe it already kind of is that, but it will continue to grow as like this weird Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, combo thing.
You're limited. You're limited. When you're limited, you have to...
Rules force creativity.
Yep.
Yes. Great quote.
Yeah.
Where can they find you? Tell us a little bit about that. I know we covered a little bit at the beginning of things you're doing and have done, but where can they find you, follow you, consume your content? I know you talked about maybe TikTok coming up. So where can they get you?
I mean, definitely Jarvis Darrell on everything. My Instagram, be sure to look on my Instagram for TikTok Tuesdays. It's the best. We have such a great time. It's a blast. And of course, She Has Had It, both on Instagram. She Has Had It will be coming to TikTok this year, so be on the lookout for that. I mean, I've already gotten hundreds of submissions of like new videos, so like it's just gonna be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
That's awesome. So tell us real quick then, She Has Had It, for those that have no idea. What is that? Break that down for us just for a quick second.
She Has Had It. I started my absolute very first day of living in New York City. Me and my best friend were on a train going to an apartment that we were renting that we'd never seen in Brooklyn. This woman gets on the train. She proceeds to cuss every single person out on the train and then promptly fall asleep. And I was like, me being from Florida, just like, what just happened? She fell asleep and was snoring loudly. And so I took a picture of her. Like we always have this saying like, "Oh, girl, she has had it." And so I took a picture and I made this Facebook album, and I was like, "This is Welcome to New York." And then like a while, like I would just take pictures of people asleep or just doing crazy things, but in a respectful way. And then on my Instagram, I transferred those photos over, and I was started to do it more. And it's kind of like making this like fictional like narrative about like what I think their day was like in a very funny, uplifting way. But like kind of sassy, kind of, you know, it's tongue in cheek.
Right, like, why are you wearing that?
Like
people of Walmart.
Yeah, very much like the people of Walmart.
Well, Jarvis, we really appreciate it. This
man.
has been a great conversation, and you have inspired me.
Great to do TikTok.
With some TikTok. I might actually, maybe my 2021 New Year's resolution will be to start a TikTok.
You both should be on TikTok.
Yeah.
This should be on TikTok.
I'm looking forward to. I know it's a little premature, but I'm looking forward to She Has Had It on TikTok. That sounds.
It's gonna be a joy. I can
great.
promise.
Sounds
you
great.
that.
You'll have 2 subscribers with us.
That'll be our
Thank
life.
God.
Hashtag fantastic people on TikTok.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Thank you guys so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to Fantastic People. Please rate and subscribe wherever you find your podcast, and follow us on social media. That's at Fantastic People Pod on Facebook, at Fantastic_People Pod on Instagram, and at Fantastic People, no E, on Twitter. We'd like to say thank you to Alex Edmondson for our artwork. We hope to see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.